Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Finger Wag Sports Talk. I'm your host, Matthew Wagner. Let's get right into today's conversation. So today, I want to talk about some NBA news going around the league, and then I want to get into my top 10 NBA teams of all time. So to start off with some news going around the league, as you know, the All-Star Game is happening in Atlanta, Georgia, and they have announced the 2021 All-Star starters. For the Eastern Conference, it is Kevin Durant, Giannis, Bradley Beal, Joel Embiid, and Kyrie Irving. And I just want to say thank you for the fan voting for putting Bradley Beal as an NBA starter. He is the league leader in points. And yes, his team isn't doing very hot, but he sure is. And it is a well-deserved spot for Bradley Beal. Now, over on the West side, we have, for starters, LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, and Kawhi Leonard. And all of these spots are well-deserved for each and every player. And I am excited to watch this game on TV, and I am excited to watch my guy Domantas Sabonis come off the bench for the All-Star game. Of course, he plays for the Indiana Pacers, and I am a Pacers fan, so it will be very exciting to watch him play for his second straight All-Star game. So in other news going around the league, on February 23rd, the Houston Rockets released their center DeMarcus Cousins. This was his first season with the Houston Rockets, but they don't want him anymore, so he is up for grabs for any team. In other news, the Brooklyn Nets are starting to move up in the power rankings. They are, from what I know, second in the NBA as of now. And the thing is that they have a big three: Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. But they've won the last 4 games without the great Kevin Durant. Not saying that they're losing because of Kevin Durant when he's on the floor, but it's just odd that they started winning once he went to the bench because of injury. So whenever they made this trade to get James Harden, I was in big speculation on how well they will actually do based off their performance towards the beginning of the season, because they weren't doing very good, and I thought it was going to be another Oklahoma City Thunder kind of deal with KD, Westbrook, and Harden, where they thought they could win it all and they thought they'd be back there every year, but they weren't, and they eventually dismantled. But as the years go on, they get better and better every year. So I think that the Nets will continue this hot streak, and the NBA better watch out for this elite team. So some other news. Here's an update with the MVP award race right now. Last week, we had LeBron James at number 1, and this week, he is still number 1. And this past week, he also hit the 35,000 point mark, joining Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Karl Malone in that category. So here again is just another accolade or accomplishment, adding on to the GOAT conversation for LeBron James. And in the number 2 spot is the big man, Joel Embiid. He has been killing it in the NBA, and so has his team. They are still first in the Eastern Conference, with the Nets right behind them. And for the 3rd and 4th spot, we have some point guards entering the conversation. Number 3, we have Damian Lillard. Yes, he has entered the top three. And number 4 is the great Stephen Curry. And Nikola Jokic was number 3, but he dropped down to number 5. And Kevin Durant is right now out of the conversation because he is injured. So some final news going around the league. Pau Gasol is leaving the NBA and has joined Barcelona. And he is originally from Spain, so it's only right to go home and play basketball there. Pau played 18 seasons in the NBA, and he won 2 championships with the Los Angeles Lakers back-to-back. So congratulations, Pau Gasol, on a great career here in the NBA, and best of luck in Spain. So now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to get into our topic of the day. This is my top 10 NBA teams of all time. So coming in at number 10, and this is also a fan favorite, are the 1989 Detroit Pistons, or also known as the Bad Boys. A year before they won the championship in '89, they just came off a finals loss against the Lakers in '88. So they kind of had some payback to get on the NBA. They started off the season 16-4, and they only allowed teams about 100 points per game, which was the second best in the NBA. I mean, when you look at this roster for the Detroit Pistons, you have James Edwards, Joe Dumars, who really stepped up in that season, big man Bill Laimbeer, and of course the great Dennis Rodman, who came from the Bulls, and one of the greatest point guards of all time, Isaiah Thomas. So just looking at the roster, you knew this was going to be a tough team to play. And as they went into the playoffs, the first 2 series were super easy for them, but the next series, they had to go up against Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. And this series did go to Game 6, and it went back and forth, but ultimately the Detroit Pistons came out on top and advanced to the NBA Finals. And who do they meet there again? The Los Angeles Lakers. Going into the finals, everyone could tell that the Detroit Pistons wanted it more than the Lakers, and they did based on the series sweep. A perfect 4-0 against the Lakers. So you can really tell that the Pistons really wanted to come back this season and really win it all for the city of Detroit, as they captured their very first NBA championship against the great Magic Johnson and the Lakers. And there's a great documentary series, 30 for 30, on ESPN, and it just shows the years of the Bad Boys and who they go up against and what they accomplish. So, congrats to the Pistons for being number 10. Moving on to number 9, I am giving it to the 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers. This team is also one of my fan favorites. And this is also a team that I got to watch throughout the season in 2016. So I am thankful to witness history as the season went on. And on this roster were great names in the league at the time, such as Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, J.R. Smith, and of course, the one and only LeBron James. And this Cavs team ended the season with a 57-25 record, led by LeBron James averaging almost 26 a game, 7 boards and 6 assists. And going into the playoffs, they were the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't remember their run until they got to the NBA Finals against the 73-9 Golden State Warriors. And going into the finals, the Warriors were the favorite to win it all, as they were trying to beat the Chicago Bulls 72-10 team with an NBA championship, them trying to win 73-9 with the championship. So really, for both teams, there was a lot of pressure on them because the Warriors were trying to win a championship with this amazing record, and the Cavaliers were trying to win their first championship in franchise history. And as we all know, all finals go into the history book, but this one was something that will always be remembered, as the Cavaliers went down 3-1 in the series and came back and won 4-3. And no team has ever done that in NBA history, coming down from that much of a deficit. And to do that against a 73-9 team, that's absolutely incredible. And it was all led by LeBron James. And this finals was my favorite sports moment and favorite series of all time. So congrats to the 2016 Cavaliers on being number 9 on my list. So moving on to number 8, I'm giving it to the 2013 Miami Heat. Yes, another LeBron James basketball team. This is another team that I watched personally throughout the whole season, mainly because I knew the Indiana Pacers were up there for one of the top teams in the NBA, and I'm a Pacers fan, so I have to scout out the other teams, and I knew that the Miami Heat were going to be a problem. This Miami roster was completely stacked. Players such as LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Shane Battier, Udonis Haslem, and Ray Allen. And this team was only getting better after coming off another championship run the year before against the OKC Thunder. And this team was almost stopped by the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals, as the Pacers took the Heat to Game 7, and LeBron James scored 32 to send the Pacers home. And that next season happened again in the Eastern Conference Finals, but only going to Game 6. So going into the finals, they had to play the San Antonio Spurs, and that roster consisted of Danny Green, Kawhi Leonard, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, and the great coach Greg Popovich. And this series went back and forth, going to a Game 7, but the Game 6 is what everyone remembers. The clock is winding down, and LeBron James shoots a 3 and misses it. Chris Bosh gets the offensive rebound, passes it to the corner to Ray Allen for 3, hits it with 5.2 seconds left. That shot saved the team, saved the series, as they won that game and went on to Game 7 and won that game to be an NBA champion. So this Miami Heat team was one of the favorites to win it all in 2013, and they did just that. So congratulations to the Heat on being number 8. Moving on to number 7 on my list, it goes to the 1991 Chicago Bulls. This roster was filled with the legendary Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman. And this team finished the season 67-15, led by Michael Jordan, averaging 30 points a game, 6 boards, and 6 assists. And going into the playoffs as the number 1 seed, it wasn't easy for the Bulls, as they had to go up against some pretty good teams. Well, except for the first round. They went up against the Miami Heat, and they just dominated them. But then in the next rounds, they played the New York Knicks, which was a tough series as they went back and forth. And then the next round, they played the Cavs, which was another tough series. And in the finals, they played the Portland Trail Blazers, led by Clyde Drexler, and it went to a Game 6, but eventually the Chicago Bulls won. So overall, they had a dominating season and a dominating postseason, and it was a well-deserved win for an amazing team. That was number 7. Number 6 on my list, I'm giving it to the 1967 Philadelphia 76ers. This team was dominant in this year, in the regular season and the postseason, as they went 68-13 in the season and 12-3 in the postseason. And this team was led by the great Wilt Chamberlain, who averaged an outstanding double-double of 24 points a game and 24 rebounds per game. And the reason why I am giving it to this 76ers team is because they beat the Boston Celtics, who from 1959 to 1966 won every single championship until the 76ers, led by Wilt Chamberlain, came in and dethroned them. And it looked like nobody in the league was going to stop them. So someone had to step in, and the Sixers took care of business. So that is why they are the spot on my list. So now we are moving on to our final 5, our top 5 teams of all time. So number 5 is going to be the 1965 Boston Celtics. This team was led by Sam Jones, John Havlicek, and Bill Russell. This team was just so dominant, and it showed how easy it is to win for them. John Havlicek was averaging 18 points. Sam Jones was averaging 25, and Bill Russell was averaging 14 points and 24 rebounds. The Celtics played the 76ers in the first round of the playoffs that went to Game 7 and won by 1 point because of John Havlicek stealing the ball away. And in the finals, they dueled against the Los Angeles Lakers, who had Jerry West. And the 3 Celtic stars really showed up, and they beat the Lakers 4-1 in the final series. So congrats to the Boston Celtics for being number 5. So number 4 on my list, it's another Celtics team, the 1986 Boston Celtics. This is another fan favorite team, and it is also a well-deserved spot. This roster was led by Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Bill Walton, and Danny Ainge. And this team dominated on their home court, winning 40 games. And they finished the season 67-15. And going into the playoffs, I think they had it pretty easy going into the finals. As the series before, they swept the Milwaukee Bucks. The series before that, they won it pretty easily, and the series before that. But the finals, they actually lost some home games, which was very shocking. And that series went to a Game 6, but it was enough for the Boston Celtics to win, and it was a well-deserved win. And it's always great to see an Indiana native to win an NBA championship, who is the great Larry Bird. So that is number 4 on my list. Moving on to number 3, I'm giving it to the 1987 Los Angeles Lakers. This team ended the season 65-17, led by Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and James Worthy. And going into the playoffs, they were even more dominant. The first round of the playoffs, they swept the Nuggets. In the second round, they went 3-1 against the Warriors. And in the Western Conference Finals, they swept the Seattle Supersonics. And in the NBA Finals, they went up against the reigning champions, Boston Celtics, led by Larry Bird. And they didn't sweep them, but they won in 6 games. as Magic Johnson won the NBA season MVP and the finals MVP. And they have a great documentary series on ESPN, 30 for 30, over the Lakers and Celtics years as they went to the NBA Finals against each other. It's a great documentary, and I love watching Magic Johnson and Larry Bird go up against each other. So congratulations to the 87 Lakers on being number 3. So finally, ladies and gentlemen, we are to our top 2 teams of all time. Who will come out on top? Let's find out. Number 2, I'm giving it to the 2016-2017 Golden State Warriors. This was the year after that they blew the 3-1 lead against the Cavaliers, and also with that 73-9 season. In this season, they went 67-15 and added an amazing postseason record of 16-1. And this season wasn't like what they had before, as they added Kevin Durant, who just made this sharpshooting team much better. So playing alongside Kevin Durant are players like Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. And Steph, Klay, and KD all averaged above 20 points a game throughout the whole season. So right there shows why they were so dominant throughout the whole season and the playoffs. And their point difference played a big part in their season, as they placed 4th on the all-time list in point differential, followed by some teams that went on to win the NBA championship, as did the Golden State Warriors. And they had an 11.1 point differential between all their opponents throughout the season. And it got even better in the playoffs for them, as they placed 2nd all-time, averaging 13.5 point difference against other teams. And those are teams who have at least played 5 postseason games. So because of these stats and all the other great stats they had, and added Kevin Durant even without him, over the last 3 years between 2015 and 2018, the Warriors won 254 games and only lost 54. One of those seasons was their 73-win season, and they added 2 championships. And do I think that Kevin Durant earned his 2 rings at Golden State? Yes, I think he did. I mean, if you want to win, then you got to join a good team. I think it was a great pickup for the Warriors, and a lot of fans complained about it because there are too many superstars on that team. But if you want to win a championship, you got to go big, and that's what they did. And it was a well-deserved 2 championships from Kevin Durant and company. So, congratulations to the 2017 Warriors on being the 2nd greatest team of all time. So before I get to my top team, I want to give some honorable mentions that did not make this list. First team is the 2000-2001 Los Angeles Lakers, led by Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. Another team is the 2013-2014 San Antonio Spurs. This team dismantled the great dynasty in Miami that was LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. And the Spurs had Kawhi Leonard, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and others. Another honorable mention, the 2007-2008 Boston Celtics. They won the championship that year also, and they were just a great team that consisted of Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Rajon Rondo, Kevin Garnett. It was just a well-rounded team and well-deserved title for them. And a final honorable mention, the 2015-2016 Golden State Warriors, as they are the only team to win 73 games in a regular season. Again, a well-rounded team right there. So now we are to our final team on my list. Who is the greatest NBA team of all time? You might have guessed it, so here it is. I'm giving it to the 1996 Chicago Bulls. And this is not only just a fan favorite team, but this is the greatest team of all time. For this 96 Bulls team, this is the last season that they would see Michael Jordan wearing number 23, as he retired and went to play baseball for a little bit and then came back to the NBA to play for the Wizards. This Bulls team was very dominant, as they were the first NBA team to win 70 games in a regular season, finishing 72-10 overall. And they started 37-0 on their home court, and they recorded a 44-game win streak. And this great roster consisted of Michael Jordan, who averaged 30 points a game, 6 boards, 4 assists, and he became an all-star that season and became the MVP. And he played alongside Scottie Pippen, who averaged 19 points, 6 boards, and 5 assists, and played alongside Dennis Rodman, too, who grabbed 14 boards a game. And Tony Kukoc shot 40% from three-point land, which is outstanding. Now, this team would not be the greatest team of all time if the Golden State Warriors in 2016 won an NBA championship and had a record of 73-9. But because they won a championship with a 72-10 record, they are the greatest team of all time. And some can argue with me about that. And not only with other franchises, but even with some other Bulls team with Michael Jordan. So going into the playoffs, they swept the first series against the Heat with an average point margin of 25. That's insane. And the next series, they went up against the Knicks and won in 5 games. And then they went against the Magic in the conference finals against a young and dominant Shaquille O'Neal. And they punched their ticket to the NBA Finals. And going up against the Seattle Supersonics in the finals, the Bulls started off 3-0. And in games 4 and 5, the Sonics won. But then the Bulls ended up winning game 6 to win their second NBA championship, which is 2 of Michael Jordan's 6. And on the documentary series The Last Dance, which is about Michael Jordan's career, he said, "I was a little bit upset that I didn't get the MVP that year, and they gave it to Charles Barkley. But with that said, okay, fine, you can have it. I'm going to get this," and this meaning the championship. And Michael Jordan and company did just that. And the stats shown for the Chicago Bulls were just amazing in this season. They averaged about 115 points per game, which was number 1 overall. And they only allowed 101 points per game, which was number 1 overall. And they also hold the highest net rating in NBA history with 13 points per 100 possessions. And their winning margin of 12.24 is 3rd all time. And it just looks incredible on the stat sheet how much they could win by against opponents. So overall, this season of the Chicago Bulls was just absolute dominance for them. And it has shown throughout history. So congratulations to the 1996 72-10 led by Michael Jordan, the greatest player of all time, for being the greatest NBA team of all time. So with that, I thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoyed another episode of Finger Wag Sports Talk. Catch you all next time.